Hey everyone, this is Dmitry Pargamonik with MarketChameleon.com. In this video, we're going to go over an example how to read an income statement. I'm going to use Microsoft as an example. Before we get into the data, the key takeaways we want to look at an income statement is how profitable is Microsoft, and are they growing their earnings? Are they growing their revenues? So before we get into the data really quickly, where does the income statement come from? When companies report earnings, they file income statements, balance sheets, and other financials with the SEC. If you want to go here, here's a link here. I'm going to press it really quickly just to show you. Here is the SEC Edgar search results, and these are the 10Ks. So you could go in there and find those filings for yourself. But I'm going to come back here, and this is a summarized version of those filings. And down here below, we have the data, and this income statement happens to be annual statements. There are also quarterly statements, so you could go take a look either quarter to quarter, or if you want to look for year to year. In this example, we're just going to stick with the annual statements. And I have the data here below. Up top, above here, this is a graphical view of the data, so you could see here year by year, 2020, 2019, 2018, and so forth. And these bars here represent some of the key metrics from the income statement. So we see here that big blue bar, that's the total revenue. If you hover over it, it'll show you this is cost of revenue, gross profits, operating expenses, selling general and administrative expenses, research and development, operating income, and net income available to shareholders. I'll go a little bit into more detail, but the point of the graph is to kind of compare them versus each other and how they've been growing or decreasing year over year. So just a quick observation here. If I just take a look at the total revenue, I could see that Microsoft's total revenue has been growing year over year. I'm going to come down to the data table here and just show you the basic layout. And what we want to do is, after looking at the numbers, the notional values, we're going to want to convert these to percentage statements. And the percentage statements are really going to give us more insights, and we use percentage statements because then we could start making comparisons, relative comparisons to peers, comparisons to how it's been performing year over year. And I'll show you a little bit more when I change this to a percentage statement. So first we start out with total revenue. Total revenue is all their total sales. So Microsoft in total sales made $143 billion in 2020. Cost of revenue, this is what it cost them to produce the products to sell. So it cost them $46.1 billion to produce the products that they sold for $143 billion. So then that leaves them with gross profits of $96.9 billion. Then you have other expenses besides what it costs to make the product. You also have other operating expenses, such as here selling, general and administrative expenses, includes selling and marketing expenses. You have research and development, depreciation, amortization, depletion. So when we take out those other expenses, we come up with the operating income. And the operating income over here, $53 billion, that's income from their core business, what the business that they deal with from day to day. If we come down here, we have pre-tax income, and then we also have net income available to shareholders. So you could see here that's $44.3 billion, and that will take into account any other type of income that's coming in that's not directly from their core business. So if they're buying or selling some type of assets, have some kind of investments out there that they're either making or losing money, that's going to also come out of there from the operating income. So you're left with net income to shareholders. And then if you wanted to see earnings per share, you have them here below. So now that we kind of went over the numbers, let's convert this to a percentage statement to get a little bit more insight. So first, there are two types of percentage statements we have here. One is we're going to convert everything as a percentage of total revenue. So I'm going to come over here and say value as a total percentage of total revenue. We have the graphs here, but let's take a look below. So over here, we have the last reported numbers, just like we went over, but here we're converting them as a percentage. So total revenue as a percentage of total revenue, that's 100%. Cost of revenue as a percentage total revenue is 32%. This leaves them with gross profits of 68%. In other words, for every dollar in sales that they make, Microsoft gets to keep 68 cents of that after it deducts what it cost them to make it. Then if we deduct operating expenses here, we'll get just like we were talking about. Then we're left with operating income. So that's taking out salaries, marketing, research development, all that stuff. Then we got 37%. In other words, for every dollar in sales they make, they keep 37% from their core business, or 37 cents. Net income to shareholders, 31%. Same idea. If we wanted to see, well, how much of their revenue are they spending on research and development? We could see here 13% of their revenue they're kicking back to research and development. How much of their revenue are they spending on marketing? So we could see here 14%. So this gives us kind of an idea how they're distributing their revenue around expenses. Now, another thing to keep in mind, let's say we wanted to just see how their gross profits have been, are they increasing or decreasing over time? So we could see that now their gross profits are 68%. How do we compare that to the year prior? That was 66%, so they had an improvement, right? Year over year, they had an improvement from 66% to 68%. And then we could go back in time to see if that number has been stable, if it's jumping around, is it improving, or is it getting worse? And again, we could do that with any of these other numbers, such as operating income and net income to shareholders. So that's really quickly one type of percentage statement. The other percentage statement is year-over-year growth. So since we went over this one, let's switch it now to year-over-year change. I'm going to switch it here. Here we have a graphical view. And if we wanted to just kind of look at only one type of metric, let's say total revenue, we could switch it to total revenue to see its percentage growth year over year. But let's come down here to the table and see it in this table format. So total revenue from 2019 to 2020 grew 14%. From 2018 to 2019 grew 14%. So in the last 3 years, it's kind of been stable, grown at 14% year over year, which has been increasing if we start comparing it to earlier years like 2017, 2016, 2015. What about cost of revenue? Same idea. We could see, is the cost of revenue increasing or decreasing year over year? Gross profits, we could also see those have been increasing year over year since 2017 to the present, 17% from 2019 to 2020. And then as you go down, same idea. You could look at what type of growth we're looking at versus prior years. Now, once we convert it to percentage statements, the idea is we could also now compare it to peers, right? So we could see how has Microsoft revenue been growing versus maybe another peer like Google or Amazon. How have their gross profits been growing? We could also see their margins. If I come back here and go back to value as a percentage of total revenue, so we see here gross profits, gross margins, 68%. So remember, keep in mind that means that after they deduct their cost of producing that product, 68% remains. How does that compare to someone like Google or Facebook or other peer stocks in that group? And this way you could you could compare not only Microsoft versus itself, but also versus other stocks or any other index. Hopefully this was helpful, everyone, and hope to see you guys in the next video.